Well, a very good morning and a warm welcome to the second day of competition here at Millstreet International Horse Trials. It is the show jumping phase for the Nations Cup 4-star short format competition presented by Connolly's Red Mills. Competition due to get underway in a little over 20 minutes time, and we will of course see those Nations Cup riders jumping in the first section of the competition, so the team scores will be updated very, very quickly. Australia lead the way, but not even a second ahead of second place New Zealand. Then come the United States of America, a little bit further back, Great Britain and Ireland completing the top five of the five teams represented in the Nations Cup here this weekend. But 59 competitors coming forward to jump over the show jumping track, taking place in the same arena as we saw the dressage.
2:25 for the first combination.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, how are you? Congratulations. Well, not, pass it on, congratulations. Pass it on, congratulations. Great. Are you over for it? No, we want you to have it. It's forward enough distance to it. Get them over. You're walking. I'll catch up with you later. Yeah. Coming out there. I'd say
Oh, there she is. What do you think? I think, I get really bad headaches from sunlight. Yeah. No, I can't even.
Hey, come to the salad. Somebody come to the not even.
Yeah,
dying.
Literally. I'll be under the tent.
What? Yeah, just forward enough right now. What's the distance from there to 1 to 2?
7, but not too outrageous. It's a nice
4?
4 from 3 to 4.
Yeah.
1, 6, I think, after the triple bar. But a nice 6, not a holding 6. And then roll back round 1. It walks in 9 to 9.
Yeah.
And
Go
then
left again.
2 and 1. And then roll back.
On the left lane. Is that on? No, maybe it's not. One on the right lane. Back onto the left lane.
Now, before we start the competition, we're going to have to ask all of you sitting down here to the left of the judges' box. We're going to have to move you outside the ring. We can't only have competitors in the ring in the interest of safety. And there are some very, very young people there.
6 to
we would appreciate your cooperation before we let the first one go. So we are going to ask you all to move outside the ring. Thank you.
3 to 4, 6. Tide will come on you quite quick.
Said one bit
Yeah.
down.
You're not exact. Yeah, how to come on him. Yeah.
Now, as I said, the 20. Now, the course details the length of the course for our 4-Star Nations Cup competition is the length of the course,
this takes
520
priority.
metres.
I
Time at
went to
84
and I
seconds.
said, listen, so I'm due to go about.
You did 3 star long?
Yeah. And they said, oh well, this nation's cup. I said, first they said cross country is Pleasant, right? And I said, well, someone the last to go cross country. So what am I going to do? Are you going to wait here? And they said, oh no, cross country is Pleasant, but you have to stick to your show jumping order. And I said, but if they're on the same time, what are we going to do? We're having 2 places at once.
It's 25 minutes late now.
Yeah. And she said, oh no. So then they have to come back to me. And they said, there's a few years. Ian is 4 in this and he's to go cross country 2-star. Ian Castles. Yeah. And then he's going cross country. So they said, we've told the cross country start. He said, yeah. He's not keen.
I had to jumper. I put some of them. I'm reading about it as well.
Yeah. And he would. Or a waistcoat or something.
I've just heard from the TD there, so you are to jump. We cannot change the order of jumping. However, cross country do know that you're tight on time, so your cross country will be altered if needed. So you come and jump in order, but your cross country you can go later. They will see what the story is when you arrive over there, and they'll fix that. So your show jumping is definitely in the order of events.
Why are you asking me?
What did you do here? Trouble boy to you, but how many distance?
Should we go left?
6 minutes. 5.
I don't know what you say.
Well, what are you getting?
I've actually got it.
Well, I go up to the way clock 7, but everyone said 6, but I just had them over hot.
I don't know.
6 1 to 2 or 7 1 to 2?
I probably pull the glove up and get started.
That was what I was thinking about. I plan to do 7 1 to 2 and 6 here. Because
I'm trying to do the
she'll
opposite.
come in over the triple bar and I'll let her just keep coming.
Yeah.
Because mine's a bit fucking awkward. If I start checking her.
So you might go 7 1 to 2. 1 2
Walk it down again.
3 4 4
Yeah.
5 on 1 stride.
Yeah.
6 is triple bar on whatever that's 7. Left-handed 8. Knock that up 9 9.
7.
7 to 1.
Yeah.
Upright. Pretty good.
Yeah, no, the stewards are all had to be on and they said no, you stick to your show jumping order and there's a few riders doing the same, so cross country have been told that they're drive. I said, oh,
Yeah, no, get him now and then straight to the upright and jump it on 6. I'm going to come down a little bit, comes to the triple bar a little bit narrow, and maybe 7.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good house. What are the second job?
Okay, we're going to clear the arena someplace 5 minutes before they start. So the standings at the moment in the team competition after Christmas, Australia leading then in third, United States, 103.2, and Great Britain in fourth on 105. That's the team standings at the moment as we go to the show jumping phase. In the four-star Nations Cup, sponsored by Combination Wrestling.
Huh? I tell you what, cross country, not you now. Money. 5
But it's going to be running late now because cross country is going to be held at 2 o'clock.
Why?
Because I'm in here, Ian Castle is here, there's several of us, and we went to him and said,
He's here for a couple of hours.
he's 4, yeah. And he said, I went to him and I said, listen, I said, I'm due cross country for one time. And I said, I'm 30 something to go. After the team to jump, can I just move up and go a few areas? And he said, no, can't. And then he's 11 for me. So I went and said, listen, can I just swap with one rider, and then we're not affecting anyone. No, it's a Nation Cup, everyone has to. So they were on the walkie-talkie.
I mean, they rung me at phone. They said we would draw Wednesday night, 9:30, David Hewitt, Heather O'Connor has put a request in to be on Friday for Sammy. Can you swap one of the riders from Friday with her? Ian got 4, Paddy got 3, you got, I mean, I couldn't move yours. I said, no, let's put the fucking last. He said, oh, I can't do that because all the chefs have to agree. The fucking TD put together the WhatsApp group, should have done it. Yeah? Put the question on there, and if you get 5 thumbs up, it's fine.
Yeah, it's done, it's on.
Yeah, and that's.
But now they're
So he did that, it took 10 minutes.
Yeah,
It got done.
they're actually on the walkie-talkie.
Yeah, and then
Cross country has been told you have to hold it.
Arcadia Arena plays 3 minutes for the start, 3 minutes.
That says cross country takes precedence, but you have to jump in your exact order of Nation Cup. So
Welcome back to Millstreet International Horse Trials for the FEI Eventing Nations Cup competition. And it is the show jumping phase that we will be focusing our attentions on today. 59 combinations lining up in total, but we'll see those 19 team riders as the first to jump over James Tarrant's show jumping track. A ground jury of Judy Hancock, Marie Hennessy and John Little in charge of overseeing the competition itself. And it will be Emily Hamel and Corvette who will get us underway. 36.2 their first phase score, sees them in 33rd place overnight. 84 seconds is the time allowed. So Emily, the first of the 4 US team riders, team on a total score of 103.2, sees them actually in 3rd place in the Nations Cup team standings. This is one of the most experienced horses in the field, and we said on Thursday when we saw his dressage that actually the jumping phases is where this horse really excels. He has quite an unusual technique, and it's garnered him a legion of fans from all over the world. It's unbelievably established at the 5-star level. Will be a great pathfinder for the US team over Mike Etherington Smith's cross-country track tomorrow. "17 years of age now, owned by the Black Flag Option LLC. Emily, who's come over as part of that US European Development Tour. Great to see so many of them competing here, and actually 5 of the riders in this 4-star competition. Cassie Sanger, the 6th member of the team, has a couple of horses headed to Bramham International Horse Trials next weekend over in England. But so far this is an exceptional round for the US team. It gets them started comfortably inside the time allowed, 80 seconds just over, so 3 and a bit seconds to spare, and a faultless clear round. So great start for the US team. 36.2 was one of their counting scores, and that sees the US team stay on 103.2. Australia 99.4. They've only got 3 team members though. New Zealand 99.7, who do have 4 team members, and actually their 4th counting score is just 0.4 more than their 3rd counting score, so they're in a very competitive position. The USA 103.2, Great Britain 105.0, Ireland 107.4. Now we turn our attentions to Stephen Heel and Kadam Deluxe. Kadam Deluxe was one of the first to do dressage, second down the centre line. Actually ended up in 6th place after the first phase. 30.7. Held on at the top of the leaderboard for a good while. Turns back to this combination at 5A and B on the 1-stride distance. Really moves on down that distance actually to 7. And it comes up really well for him. James Tarantak, horse designer here in the Green Glens Arena, in charge of all international classes this weekend. Through the treble combination. Slight touch at the vertical at 11, and then a relatively tight turn back to the final fence, and a smattering of applause as Stephen Heel and Kadam Deluxe complete their round. Be interesting to see their time. Again, comfortably inside, sub 80 seconds actually, so they stay on 30.7. The ground jury do reserve the right to take another look at that 84-second time allowed after the first 3 competitors. However, they can shorten it no less than the time inside. They can make it no shorter than the time inside that people have already jumped have been. So the most they could take off at the moment is 3 seconds, and of course we still have Tim Price to go. Not saying that they will do that. We'll update you if they do, but they do reserve that right. But so far the time looking pretty comfortable. So Tim Price and Chio 20 next to come forwards for the New Zealand team. They are one of the counting scores, sitting in 13th place individually, 33.3. Chio 20, owned by Di Brunsdon, Peter Cattell, Lucy Sangster and Tim himself. Those owners have all been exceptionally loyal to the sport of eventing for a good number of years, and the first part of that water tray just takes it in front at 4. So that will be a pole for the New Zealand team. And actually we'll see them drop behind Great Britain at the moment. I say that, it won't, because they'll take their other counting score. They do have the luxury of that, all 4 of the New Zealand team riders scoring essentially within a penalty mark of each other. Final part of the treble combination does go. Tim, who currently sits as number 6 in the FEI Eventing World Rankings. Over the final fence.
Well, it's 2 down along the way, and it's 8 faults for Tim Price.
And we'll wait for his time to be confirmed. Again, comfortably sub 80 seconds. So Tim Price and Chio 20, 8 faults to add for them. And that will see them go forward to the cross country on a score of 41.3. And there we go, time allowed being reduced to 82 seconds. So that is just going to tighten it up slightly. And it's amazing actually how much 2 seconds, how much difference it can make. So we'll watch this space, but 82 seconds the new time allowed. As now, it is the turn of Ian Casals, the first of the Irish riders. Ian comes forward with Millridge Atlantis, 36.3. Here's dressage. And actually, the drop score for the Irish team after dressage, that being said, only by 0.3. So a clear round could see him really back up his teammates here. Ian will see on 3 more occasions throughout the afternoon in this very Green Glens arena, because 3 other horses lining up in this 4-star class. Kelly's Quality, the best placed of them, just outside the top 10 in 11th. Through that treble combination. And James Tarrant has used a lot of this really big main arena here, the Green Glens Arena. Certainly an expansive, exceptional facility. And it is a very good round from Ian Casals and Millridge Atlantis. Comfortably inside the time allowed, sub 80 seconds, so he will stay on that score of 36.3, and I'm sure will be very valuable to the Irish team. Now we turn our attentions to the second of our US riders, Jenny Carris. Jenny comes forward with the 12-year-old Summersby, and actually teammate Emily Hamel and Corvette have already jumped to clear out. So the US have stayed on 103.2. Jenny on a score of 36.2. Again, one of those counting scores for the US team. Leslie Law, the chef to keep, who's come over with these emerging athletes on the European tour. They did the same last year as well, went to Stragon for the Nations Cup and actually then went on to support their teammates in Aachen in the SAP Cup. Just got in quite tight to the first part of that combination. Actually, Jenny had to ride for the first stride between the first two elements, but the horse really careful. And it is another very good clear round for the US team. We'll wait for confirmation on the clock that Jenny Carris and Summersby have their second phase completed in the fastest time of the day so far as well. So certainly good number of clear rounds. 4 from the first 5 have had no penalties to add from the show jumping, which is very expensive because there's no room for manoeuvre on the leaderboard. Next to jump, Katie Blellock, the second of the British team members. Quimera CP, owned by Bella Lloyd-Webber, comes forward on a score of 39.3, would be the drop score for the British team at the moment. The British team in 4th on 105.9. Quimera CP, you can see pretty keen down that distance, but Katie doing a really super job. The sheepskin noseband there, you can see just this mare likes quite a high head carriage. It's just to help encourage her to drop her nose. Good through the combination. And just the final fence to go. So it is another clear round for the British team. Katie Blellock and Quimera CP give us clear round number 5. And very comfortably inside the time allowed. So the Brits have 2 home clear, as do the American team. Now it is the turn of New Zealand's Clark Johnstone with Rocket Man. Rocket Man on a score of 33.5, owned by Jean and Rob Johnstone. Sees them in 14th place on the leaderboard at the moment. Would be one of the counting scores for the Kiwi team, who are hot on the heels of Australia. New Zealand 100.3, Australia at 99.4 at the moment, yet to have any of their riders jump though. And it's been a tough week within the eventing community, particularly for those in Team GB and Team New Zealand, with the loss of Georgie Campbell last weekend, who, while she flew the British flag, very much part of the New Zealand team as well. Husband Jesse represented New Zealand at the Olympic Games in Tokyo. And our thoughts remain with absolutely everybody who knew Georgie. The New Zealand team, no doubt, riding for her this weekend. Clark proudly with him. Rocket Man doing a good job so far. Marcus Beanie, and Ella Hitchman, who are out with Clark in Millstreet this week, doing a super job in turning the horses out beautifully. And another really nice clear round. So Rocket Man and Clark Johnstone keep the New Zealand team on 100.3 as their total score. And the pressure is on New Zealand now. The pressure's on Australia, beg your pardon, because they still have their first rider to jump. That will be Bill Levitt, who'll come forward in a couple of horses' time. Now, though, we turn our attentions to Patrick Whelan and Altitu. Patrick on a score of 36.0. We're in 29th place coming forward to the show jumping. Patrick, who's got, I think, 3 rides across this 4-star section. The Irish chef to keep Dag Albert here this weekend. The triple combination. Gets through there very nicely. There's a big horse. And just the final fence to go. Could be looking at another clear round. Very good for the Irish team. So, Ireland are going to stay on that score of 107.4 at the moment, as Patrick Whelan and Altitu give us another clear round number 7. Next to come forwards, it will be Bill Levitt. Bill with Sligo Candy Cane. Sligo Candy Cane Irish bred. Chris Ryan on the arena commentary will give a far better overview of this horse's breeding than I would, but he came from, I think, one of the Irish sales. Ballad Rouet on the bloodline as well. Forward to the triple bar, and actually really careful. Bill trusted the horse there to come back for that vertical. Combination was 7th last time out in Wiesbaden over in Germany in the 4-star short. That won the 4-star long format in Montelibretti earlier on this year, and should be said as well that actually have had some very good form. So ones to watch for the Australian team perhaps for the Paris Olympic Games. There's a few in the field here this weekend. Australia really dominating on that leaderboard. Bill yet to add an Olympics to his CV. He's been to a couple of World Championships, World Equestrian Games in Caen in 2014, Shannondale Titan, and then Aspen Diamond Lift in Tryon in 2018. But a lovely clear round from Bill Levitt here. So Sligo Candy Cane stays on that score of 34.6, will remain within the top 20, and job done for the first of the Australian team members. So Australia 99.4, New Zealand 100.3, and no change for the US, Great Britain and Ireland at the moment. All of their riders have jumped clear as we head into the 3rd rotation of riders now. Alyssa Phillips and Oscar. And this combination would be one that a lot of people fancy for the top spot on the podium this weekend. They've had some great form over in the US. They've been winners at this level previously. Had a great win in Terra Nova earlier on in the season. Again, a part of that European development tour, but the first part of the combination goes, so that is going to prove expensive. They were on a very good score of 30.8, and one pole will see them drop probably some 20 or so places on the leaderboard at the moment. Will also drop the US team behind Great Britain as things stand. Of course, still a long way to go. And we're anticipating tomorrow's cross country to really shake up that leaderboard, because the time penalties in particular are going to be very influential. Mike Etherington Smith's cross country track. So slight tap on the last, but home safely. Alyssa Phillips and Oscar. And it was a light touch at the first part of that combination. She'll be frustrated with that. 4 penalties. You see, just dropped her all the way down to 28th place. So Alyssa Phillips and Oscar will still have a counting score for the US team, but US move on to 107.2, just ahead of Ireland, and slip behind Great Britain. Now, Daniel Alderson, Blarney Monbeg Pepper, who again, one of the counting scores for the British team. Although it should be said that actually, should he have any penalties, the Brits will retain their spot now in third. And he has had a pole, because they will now count the score of Katie Blellock, Quimera CP, who have jumped clear. Still have Kirsty Chabert left to jump. Dan, who's been based over in Ireland for a good number of years, gets a lovely forward shot to that triple bar. Blarney Monbeg Pepper, owned by Lady Caroline Colthurst, 9-year-old mare by Dignified Van Zorglier. Didn't get a lot of height over that penultimate vertical, but he importantly left it standing. And a lovely shot at the last. So Blarney Monbeg Pepper will go on to 43.1. Again, comfortably inside the time. The time allowed 82 seconds. Hasn't been at all influential. James Tarrant, the show jumping course designer. And the time so far very achievable, which does just take the pressure off slightly. Now the turn of Dan Jocelyn and Blackthorn Cruise. Dan, who is one of the counting scores for the New Zealand team, comes forward on 33.9. This is a horse that has been very successful at the 5-star level for Dan, owned by Dan alongside Panda Christie. Dan, who's represented New Zealand at major championships previously, had the wonderful Silence for so many years. Sees a forward shot to that Oxer. Jump clear in this horse's last 4 international show jumping rounds, so usually pretty reliable in this phase. And the New Zealand team would really like to keep the pressure on Team Australia in the Nations Cup, so a clear round here would certainly do that. They just have Kenya Wilson and Andrew Barnett to come forward. So Dan Jocelyn gets the job done with Blackthorn Cruise, and we'll stay on 33.9. So we'll go into the top 15 comfortably with that clear round. As next to come forwards, it will be Ballyvaline OBOS, Robbie Kearns for Ireland. 2 Irish riders in the Nations Cup team have jumped so far. Both of them have been clear. So in terms of Ireland scores, this is one of the counting scores. And a clear round would actually see Ireland secure a total score of 107.7 or better, because Ian Cassells has also jumped clear and he's currently a drop score for them. So that would certainly put the pressure on. Robbie, who comes forward with his horse by OBOS Quality. on a score of 35.9. Owned by Robbie alongside Richard Ames, was bred by Tim Gleeson. 11-year-olds. So far looking very good for the Irish team. See Robbie a little bit later on as well. But Ballyvillain OBOS picks up a very good clear round. This is a combination that won the 3-star at Ballindennis last year. But time penalties coming through. So that is interesting because that is the first that we have seen pick up time penalties on this track. And interestingly, just over the 84 seconds. So 1.2 time for Robbie Kearns sees him go to 37.1. It's an expensive 1.2 time penalties. Drops him down to 38th place at worst on the leaderboard. In terms of the Irish team, they will now count the score of Ian Cassels. And they're on 107.8, still in 5th. Now though, Kenya Wilson, Sandro Salute. Kenya, who's come over from Australia, based with fellow Australian Sammy Birch, who unfortunately not able to compete in this Nations Cup class. She was the 4th Australian team member. But it means the Australians just fielding a team of 3 here this weekend. Kenya just takes the first part of that combination. So that is going to drop. At the moment, Australia behind New Zealand. This combination. Winners at this level previously were 5th at Adelaide in the 5-star last season also. Had so many good placings over in Australia and indeed over into New Zealand as well. Was 6th at the Land Rover Horse of the Year show beginning of March. Rattling their way through the treble combination, but so far just the 1 pole down. And if they can limit the damage to 1, I think she'll be pretty pleased with that. Yeah, she does so. Wait to see their time because, again, 82 seconds the time allowed. And she's going to pick up 0.8 time penalties as well. So goes on to a score of 40.6. And that will just drop her down the leaderboard. What does it do to the Australian team score? Well, it sees them go behind New Zealand. New Zealand 100.3. Australia 104.2, so still within a fence of New Zealand. Great Britain 105.2. The USA 107.2. Ireland 107.8. Just 2 fences still covering the entire field. Now it is Caroline Pamuchku and Kings Especial. And actually they are the top score for the US teams. The US team locked in on 107.2. But Caroline on 36.3. Still very much on a competitive score for them to be able to incorporate going into tomorrow's cross country. And this is a horse that Caroline thinks so much of for the future. He's had some great results at the 4-star level. Caroline, of course, the individual Pan American Games gold medalist and her red coat in Chile last year. Would be placed in 4th overnight in the 4-star long format as well. Has a couple of horses here this weekend. It's been at least 16 years since we've seen a US rider win at the 4-star level on Irish soil. So over the last, and she looks pretty pleased with that, as so she should. Caroline Pamuchku comfortably inside the time. Kings Especial will stay on that score of 36.3 for Caroline Pamuchku. And it's interesting because that actually gives the US team 4 riders with very little between their drop score. In fact, if they counted their drop score, they would still be ahead of Ireland. So the US in 4th or better. Now Kirsty Chabert, opposition heraldic girl. Kirsty, who's had some great wins on Irish soil at the 4-star level. Opposition heraldic girl was a homebred. That part of the water trade goes. Homebred by Fleetwater Opposition. Owned now by Caroline Keynes, Kate Montserrat, and Father John Johnston, who is such a big part of that breeding operation. She's a feisty little pocket rocket, this mare. Kirsty, very petite. Mare's not very big at all. Carefully through that combination. So just the 1 pole down so far. I think that's going to drop Great Britain below the US, and I think below Ireland as well. We'll wait for confirmation of that as they go clear of the last. So just the 1 pole down for Kirsty Chabert and opposition heraldic girl, the last of the British team riders, and comfortably inside the time. So that will see them on a score of 39.2, drops them to 44. Yeah. Great Britain move into 5th of the teams. They still count the score of opposition heraldic girl, but they're on 109.2. The US move back up to 3rd, Ireland in 4th. Janelle Price, though, the final rider for Team New Zealand, needs to jump clear to keep New Zealand ahead of Australia. Although Australia still have 1 combination left to jump as well. McLaren, the horse that Janelle brings forward. And this horse, always such a pleasure to watch. My goodness me, he's got scope to burn. He's only a small horse. Mark Todd produced him at the early part of his career. I think he didn't start eventing till he had been about 10 or 11. And Mark said at the time that he really reminded him of his Olympic gold medalist Charisma. Janelle took on the ride after Sir Mark retired and have gone on to be top 10 individually at the World Championships in Protoni, part of the New Zealand team that won a team bronze in Protoni as well. Janelle and Tim both go out to Spain for the Sunshine Tour at the beginning of each season. And so these horses are well used to jumping some pretty big and technical tracks. The riders themselves are as well. Just comes round to the last. This will be a quick round. I don't think the time's going to be a problem. And clears the final fence. Janelle Price over the last. And Tim and Janelle, who are such a massive part of the New Zealand eventing community, in particular showing real strength of character to be competing here in Millstreet this weekend. And if you are watching along on the live stream with us, then we hope that you will find solace in the eventing community pulling together as well. British Eventing actually invited everybody to have a 2-minute silence in memory of Georgie Campbell at 12 o'clock today, but they also extended that invitation to other nations all around the world to do so at 12 o'clock in their own time zone. So perhaps that might be something, if you're watching from around the world, that you might wish to do. Now, Polly Blue Eyes and Jennifer Coonley. Jennifer on a score of 35.5. And I believe is she's a counting score for Ireland. But just dived at that slightly, rattled it, but got away with it. And actually a pole from this combination or a time penalty would see them drop below Great Britain. Just doing some frantic mental maths. Great Britain on 109.2, Ireland 107.8 at the moment. But this is one of their counting scores. But never needed to worry. Polly Blue Eyes, Jennifer Coonley, safely home. And that will see the Irish team secure that penalty score of 107.8 in the Nations Cup. So they will stay in 4th at the moment. We'll see Jennifer a little bit later on. She's in 23rd at the moment, but also comes forward with Sammy Davis Jr. in 5th on the leaderboard as things stand. Now, it is the turn of Ian Cassels. Ian again just jumping slightly out of order. I was just having a moment to look for Andrew Barnett and Go Tosca, but they'll be in the arena next as the last of our team riders to go. Ian just jumping out of order, as I say, because of that the number of horses that he has in the field here. He's already had one super round on Milridge Athos. Ian bringing this horse up to the level for the first time. Went very well at Lilian d'Angers last year in the Young Horse World Championships, but only an 8-year-old. He's actually jumped clear in 4 of the horse's last 5 internationals. Just had an unlucky pole in Lilian last year. Finished top 20 here in Millstreet in the 3-star short format 12 months ago. Millstreet with such a variety of classes all the way up the levels from the 1-star intro up to the 4-star long level means that these horses often visit the venue as part of their education up the levels as well. And a really nice round from Ian Cassels. So comfortably clear and comfortably inside the time as well. He will stay on that score of 35.2, goes 22nd at the worst at the moment. As next to come forwards, it is the final team rider for Australia, and this is a really important one because in individual second place as well, it is Andrew Barnett and Go Tosca. 29.0 for this 13-year-old, owned by Kate Dowling. Andrew, who jumped clear on the final day to take the win at Sydney last November in the 4-star long format there. Numerous placings and wins at the 4-star level. So Andrew, who actually used to be a show jumper, coming over to Millstreet for the first time, based with Chris Bartlett at the Yorkshire Riding Centre. Go Tosca actually finished second to Laura Collett's Olympic gold medalist London 52 in a national class over in England a couple of weeks ago. Important for Australia because, again, as we've said, counting only 3 riders. I think that sounded like something had rattled. We'll wait for confirmation because I didn't see it fall. But did the first part of the combination go? It did. So 1 pole down for Andrew Barnett as he comes round to the last with Go Tosca. Clears the final fence. And I think there'll be a slight bit of frustration there from him. But he will stay on a score of 33.0. Just drops him outside of the top 10. At the moment, still a few to jump, so could well see him move back up into a top 10 position going into the jumping. But it means that Australia actually dropped to 4th on 108.2. So it is New Zealand 100.3, the USA 107.2. They've got a bit of a buffer actually in terms of seconds cross country, probably about 17 seconds in hand. Ireland 107.8 in third, Australia 108.2, Great Britain 109.2. Now to come forwards, it is the turn of Ireland's Michael Ryan with Barnahound Cornhill on a score of 40.1.
Owned by Carl and Tom Henry.
So Barnahound Cornhill, experienced at this level now with Mike Ryan, comes forward on that score of 40.1. Had them in 52nd place after dressage. Time allowed is 82 seconds. Only seen 1 or 2 pick up time penalties thus far. Mike sees a flyer to the last. I think the time for him is going to be okay. We'll wait for that to be confirmed though. And there we go. Stays on 40.1 inside that 80 seconds that we've seen so many people break the barrier of so far this morning. So, of those horses that have jumped, it is Steve Hill, Kadam Deluxe who lead, ahead of Janelle Price McLaren in second, Andrew Barnett and Go Tosca in third. Now we turn our attentions, of course, on those individual combinations. So all of the team riders have completed their jumping. And it is New Zealand now ahead of the USA and Ireland in the bronze medal position. Patrick Martin Byrne and Bowley's Maximum next come forward on 46.4 in 59th place coming forwards. Just actually had to get the horse back to him to wait for that vertical. Answered the question. Bowley's Maximum clear last time out at Ballindenisk in the 4-star short format then. But that was the first clear round this horse has delivered for a little while. Middle part of the combination goes. Possibly the first part stayed. I heard him rattle the first part, but he got away with it. So just coming round the final fence. Bowley's Maximum on 4 penalties and clears the last. So home safely in the Green Glens Arena. The Time should be okay as well. There we go, 50.4 his score going forward. So just the one pole down, 4 penalties to add. Just rattled the first part behind, but it stayed. Unfortunately, took the middle element in front.
Now I can tell you, after competitor number 30, there will be a break just to have some arena maintenance. That's after competitor number 30.
So next to come forwards, it is CDS Cairnview Romelu, Cathal Daniels. Cathal, who won an individual bronze medal at the Lamula Championships in 2019, has represented Ireland at Pony Junior, Young Rider and Senior level. Actually went to the World Equestrian Games in 2018 for the Irish team, was part of that team of Sarah Ennis, Sam Watson and Porrick McCarthy, who took the team silver. Cathal, very good at producing young horses as well, and Sammy Davis Jr. in fact, who's in the field with Jennifer Gate, would be one of those that was produced by Cathal. This horse has been top 10 here at Millstreet in the 4-star long format previously, a couple of years ago. It was lightly campaigned last season. It jumped clear cross country with one pole down in Kronenberg earlier on this season as part of their preparation. I'd imagine that there's a long format on the cards in the not too distant future as well. So Cathal comes to the final fence on a clear round and gets the last. So we'll stay on that score of 36.2. He was 32nd after dressage. He's going to move up at least 5 places. Bags of scope, this horse. Cathal really trusted him as well. So next to jump will be Suzanne Hagan, OBOS Take 1, on a score of 39.2, jumping as individuals for Ireland. The Irish team moving up 2 places on the overall Nations Cup team standings this weekend, having put in a very good show jumping performance from all of their riders. OBOS Take 1 jumped clear last time out at Ballindennis, on their way to a top 20 finish back in April. Experienced at the 4-star level, this combination now. Were 5th at Ballindennis last season in the 4-star long format then. OBOS Take 1 by OBOS Quality, bred again by Marie O'Brien. Suzanne owns this 12-year-old herself. And it's been a really good round in the jumping for them as they come round to the final fence. 82 seconds the time allowed, and has been pretty achievable throughout the morning or the afternoon so far. Again, I say that, but actually it just sneaks a time penalty, so 0.4 to add. So that is just 0.4 of a penalty, sees them on 39.6, just dropped below Katie Blellock and Quimera CP. So just drops them 1 place on the leaderboard. As next to come forwards, it is a horse that actually I really fell in love with in the first phase. It is Cooley Bounce. Cooley Bounce, ridden by Alana Kelly. Come forward on 38.3. There's a 14-year-old by Grange Bouncer. Master Imp on the dam line, owned by Caroline Kelly, and actually has given Alana a huge amount of fun. Came up through the young rider ranks and actually finished in 3rd place, the individual bronze medal. Helped the Irish team to a medal as well in Montelibretti at the Young Rider European Championships last year, but another to just kick out the first rail on that Oxer going into the double. Cooley Bounce, of course, holding that Cooley prefix of Richard and Georgina Sheen. And really clever to back off actually in the middle part of that combination. Was careful in front. And this horse actually, who can suffer from a little bit of fourfold-itis. I'd love to say that's the technical term, but actually it's not. And unfortunately have done so today. Just sneak inside by 0.08 of a second. So 42.3, they don't add any time penalties. This was the rail they had down. They're not the only one to have had this. Just caught it behind with the back legs. And so Alana Kelly, Cooley Bounce, go into 52nd place on 42.3. Next, it is the turn of Lucky Jojo, Nick Brooks for New Zealand on a score of 36.3. Nick Brooks on that score, as I say, 36.3. Sees him at the moment just inside the top 30. A 9-year-old owned by Nick alongside the Lucky Jojo syndicate. Nick, who's been based on British soil for a little while. Actually completed this horse's debut at the level at Little Downham at the back end of last season. Previously had some solid results at the 3-star level, including a top 10 finish here 12 months ago in the 3-star long format. So great to see them coming back this time, making the step up to 4-star. Unfortunately, the first fence went, so that's an expensive one for them. It's the first time we've seen that go today. Ah. 9 goes as well. So 8 jumping so far for Lucky Jojo. And Nick Brooks. They just have 2 fences left to go. And he clears the final fence. So Nick Brooks is home safely, but it'll be 2 down, 8 to add jumping wise on a score of 40.3. I think actually he might go to 44.3 with 2 fences down. So that will see him drop a little bit further on down the leaderboard. Just outside the top 50. Next to jump, it is Master Quality Imp, Rafael Lozano, 45.4. Rafael brings forward. Comes forward for Brazil. Rafa was actually part of the Brazilian team that secured an Olympic qualification ticket at Pan American Games last year. took a team bronze there. Canadians actually took the team gold. The US took team silver and Brazil team bronze. Finished inside the top 10 individually as well. That was with Withington, the horse on whom he is named on this year's shortlist. Of the Brazilian riders actually competing out in Kronenberg this weekend. And next week there will be a Nations Cup attention turning to Avanches in Switzerland. So Rafael Lozano and Master Quality Imp are clear and comfortably inside the time, so 45.4 their score.
Now there's some young people here to the left of the judges on the bank. We need to get you outside the arena.
As
we need you off.
Lovely shot of the final fence there. Great to see some spectators out enjoying the sunshine in Millstreet this weekend. It was a foggy old start this morning, but actually the day has cleared and we get to enjoy the sunshine this afternoon. Now it is Ira Menimum, JJ and Louise Kennedy. Louise comes forward on the horse's debut at the level. Previously had some good placings at 3-star. Actually jumped clear cross country here in the 3-star short format 12 months ago as well. Just waiting for the bell to signal that they can start their round. It sounded like they were just trying to relocate some spectators. So perhaps that the delay, and in a couple of horses' time, I think we'll have a short break while the arena party just do some works on the arena itself. There we go, the bell has gone.
Okay, thank you very much. And to be honest with you, this has been done in the interest of safety. Okay, next up.
And you get 45 seconds from the bell going in order to start your round. Menum and Louise having the opportunity to just take a look round the arena before they started. Louise, no stranger to competing on both Irish and British soil. Aluminum comes forward on that score of 42.1. So sits in 50th place at the moment. This horse owned by Andrew Kennedy. 12-year-old by Mr. Clover. Just ran into the bottom of that fence slightly. Unfortunately, didn't get high enough. Middle part of the combination goes as well. So 2 rails, 8 penalties at the moment. as Louise Kennedy comes round to the final fence, and in fact 3 rails as well. So 12 jumping to add. As that sees them go on to a score of 55.7. And there's some time penalties also. So we'll pick up a little bit of time to add to their total score. 1.6 time penalty, so 4 seconds over the time. 55.7 sees them in 59th place at the moment. So next to jump will be Hilda, Billy Orinoco, Danielle McCormack. This horse that was bred by Donald Barnwell of the Billy Stud. And actually has the Billy in the prefix as well as Hilda, because owned by Anna Sims Hilditch from the Hilda Stud. Danielle based over in Britain. Flies the flag of her native island though. And comes forward on a score of 39.1. They were in 47th place coming into the jumping. It's a horse by Kevin Zed, the prolific show jumping sire that stands at the Billy Stud, 14 years of age, out of a vector mare. On that score of 39.1 coming into the show jumping. And Danielle McCormack will stay on that score going forward to tomorrow's cross country as well. 39.1 is their total. That will see them no worse than 41st on the leaderboard. Just a reminder, if you're just tuning in, all of the Nations Cup competitors have jumped already. They did so at the start of the order. And it is New Zealand out in front, 100.3 ahead of the USA, 107.2. Ireland move up to third, 107.8. Australia drop to fourth, 108.2. Great Britain, 109.2 in fifth. Now the turn of Heather O'Connor. HSH has it all. Heather O'Connor brings forward this horse. I think it's their first run at the level. 13 years of age, HSH has it all. Owned by Heather herself, by Puissance. The on-site announcement notification just ringing through. And Millstreet really careful there. HSH has it all actually, because just got in a little bit deep. Snapped those front legs out the way. Has a real conscience, wants to leave the fences up, this horse, and that's so important. Just got a little bit low at that penultimate vertical, but comes round to the fuss and sees a flyer, a spring-heeled leap, much to the delight of the crowd, and a clear round in her first 4-star. Heather O'Connor and HSH has it all. Stay on 43.3. Combination that were actually 7th in the 3-star here 12 months ago, and actually 7th here in 2022 in the 3-star as well. So great to see them making their 4-star debut here in Millstreet. So there will be a short pause in the arena as the arena team, I believe they're just coming into Harrow, the arena, just to make sure that the going remains as good as possible. As how nice is it to see people in shorts and a t-shirt eventing in June? Certainly not something we have seen a huge amount of so far this year. But we'll just remind you of the leaderboard as it stands. Of those horses that have jumped, Stephen Heel, Gadam Deluxe hold the top spot, in be no worse than 5th going into tomorrow's cross country. Janelle Price, McLaren, 32.9, currently sitting in 2nd. Andrew Barnett, Go Tosca, 1 rail down for them, sees them drop from 2nd into no worse than 11th at the moment. But we've got just a few moments break here, and we'll be back with the second half of competition very shortly. So welcome back to the show jumping here in Millstreet for the second half of this Nations Cup class presented by Connolly's Red Mills, the 4-star short here. And we've already had those team riders a little bit earlier on in the field, but we still have our leaders after dressage, Chris Burton and Shadowman for Australia to jump. And in fact, Felix Etzel, TSF Polartans for Germany, currently having moved up to second. Kevin McNabb, Scuderia 1918, a best friend, moving up to third. And Jennifer Cooney, Sammy Davis Jr. just moving up one spot as well. All left to jump. Andrew Barnett, the highest place that we have seen thus far. And they have just dropped one pole, so currently sitting in no worse than 11th. Now we turn our attentions to the next to jump, which will be Premier Charlie and Janie Cairns, 45.8. Janie's score coming forwards. Premier Charlie actually scored a best at 4-star level in the first phase yesterday. Was 7th at Ballindenisk in the 4-star short last year. That was on their debut at the level. We're top 20 in the 3-star long format here 12 months ago. Jumped clear cross country, one pole down in the jumping. We've seen plenty of clears so far over James Tarrant's show jumping track. Time allowed of 82 seconds. Around to this final fence and pops it very well. Big pats for Premier Charlie, and that sees them go forward to tomorrow's cross country. Mike Etherington Smith's cross country track is what awaits them in the final phase of this 4-star on their dressage score of 45.8, because comfortably inside at the time as well. Mike Etherington Smith, the course designer here at Millstreet. Mike, who has designed at the very highest level of the sport, was the course designer actually for the Sydney Olympic Games in 2000, was technical delegate for the Athens Olympic Games in 2004, and I think he designed the cross country for the Beijing Olympics over in Hong Kong in 2008 as well. Did the Europeans at Le Moulin 2019. Essentially, a whole wealth of experience. As next to come forward, it is James O'Hare and Liberty Bell. James, who's competed up to the 5-star level, brings forward Liberty Bell on a score of 46.2. This 12-year-old mare by Fortunas, owned by Penelope Guinness, was bred by Penelope Guinness as well, out of Cavalier Royale mare. James in the Green Glens Arena. Fantastic facilities here at Millstreet International. Clear of the last, and it must be said as well, beautifully presented when you're tuning into the cross country. And if you've seen any of the images on social media, you will notice in particular the beautifully designed and presented fences out there. But actually all around the showground as well. We just saw it a moment ago, a flash up on the screen of that flower arrangement, Millstreet 24. The Duggan family put so much into this facility. They first held a championship back in 1980. Some 44 years ago, the European Junior Show Jumping Championships were held here, and since then they've held a whole host of them. The last were the European Eventing Championships for juniors and young riders in 2017. One can't help but feel that it's only a matter of time until they get a senior championship in eventing. Watch this space as Patricia Ryan and the Caped Crusader are next to come forwards. James O'Hare, Liberty Bell just picking up 0.4 of a time penalty, I should say, to add. They finish on 46.6. But Patricia Ryan, the Caped Crusader, on a score of 34.8. That left them just outside the top 20, in 22nd position coming forward to the jumping. And this horse did a really sweet test, actually, in the first phase. Very eager to please. Was very consistent. Trish, who's represented Ireland again alongside husband Michael at many major championships. Middle part of the combination goes, just lacked a little bit of power and impulsion. It clears the final fence, so 1 pole down, 4 jumping penalties to add for the Caped Crusader and Trish Ryan. And that will be 0.8 time penalties as well to add, so it's 0.4 of a penalty for every second or part second thereof over the time allowed, 39.6. That's a real shame. That's going to drop them well out of contention. They were just outside the top 20, and they'll go to probably around just outside the top 40 on the leaderboard, go into 44th place with those 4.8 time penalties. That is how close it is, but it is going to be absolutely no doubt that tomorrow's cross country will really play its part on the leaderboard. A provisional start time of 9 o'clock in the morning. Do check that start time. There'll be live coverage for you on FEI.tv with the on-event commentary team. Chris Ryan and team will be guiding you through all of the cross-country action. And the time here is notoriously tight. 12 months ago, Tim Price and Falco were the fastest of the day, and they still picked up 5.2 time penalties, I think it was, off the top of my head, on the way to the top spot on the podium. And certainly this morning in the 4-star long format, only one rider, overnight leader Sam Watson and Ballinese Rocketman, picked up single-digit time penalties. Now, another ride for Ian Cassels comes forward, this time with Shambo Superflex on a score of 34.8. Ian already had a couple of really nice rounds. Millridge Athos was clear, as was Millridge Atlantis. So 2 clear rounds from 2 rounds. Kelly's Quality still to go for him, the best placed of his 4 rides. Just ran a little bit down that distance, and the horse didn't quite listen to Ian, hollowed slightly, and unfortunately just lost the quality of the jump and took the vertical in front. The back rail of the final fence goes as well. Ian Cassell, Shambo Superflex, 2 poles down. So inside the time, but that'll be 8 jumping penalties to add at 46.8, the score that Ian will take forward to the jumping. And we'll see him a little bit later on as one of the last to go with Kelly's Quality. As some Brian Adams, Summer of 69, plays out in the background. Whoever is in charge of the Millstreet Green Glens Arena playlist, certainly having a lot of fun with some old school classics to accompany this show jumping. And actually, the venue rich history in music, hosted the 1993 Eurovision Song Contest of all things. So now it is the turn of one of Eventing Ireland's most established, well-respected and busiest riders on the circuit. It is Stephen Smith and New Ferry Jägermeister. Combination went to Buccolo last season, the end of the year, for the 4-star long format there. And of course, the Nations Cup series will once again conclude in the Netherlands at Buccolo, where we'll have live coverage on FEI.tv for you in October. Lots of eventing to bring you throughout the summer, though, in the meantime. New Ferry Jägermeister comes forward on 36.2. That left them in 31st place after the dressage. This 13-year-old by Lochern Cashel. That's an OBOS quality mare owned by Herbie Walker.
Could John Tilley come to the event office?
Steve Smith, who tops a good number of the tables on the Eventing Ireland Stats Centre, powered by Echo Ratings. Well over 1,000 Eventing Ireland runs in the last 9 seasons. More than any other rider on record. And approaching nearly 1,000 clear cross-country rounds as well. Just the most extraordinary achievement. Clears the last. New Ferry Jägermeister has a super round for Stephen Smith. And 36.2 inside the time, so they will be inside the top 25 going forward to tomorrow's cross-country. Go ahead of Jenny Carris and Summersby on the leaderboard. Well, actually, they will go just behind Jenny Carris and Summersby, because both on that score of 36.2, but at the moment separated by the quicker show jumping round. Tomorrow will most likely be separated by, if they did both go inside the time, whoever finishes closest to the optimum time. And of course, if they both finish on the same time inside the time cross-country, then it would go back to the show jumping time and who was faster. A long way to go before that, though. As next to come forwards, sees a bit of a flyer to the second. It is Patrick Whelan, Pilltown OBOS. 39.3, his score coming forwards. Pilltown OBOS, the second of his 3 rides. Combination went clear cross-country at Blenheim in the 9-year-old class last year. Actually, top 10 at Kililkey in the 4-star long format in the summer, and in the previous season clear cross-country at Le Lion d'Angers in the 7-year-old young horse world championships. Comes forward, as we say, on 39.3. Unfortunately, in the middle part of the combination, that's been influential at 10B, and just kicks out in front, actually, the vertical that follows. Rattled the last, but that did stay. So unfortunately, a couple of expensive rails later on in their round to add to the first that also went. 16 jumping penalties in total, and going to be 1.2 time penalties. 3 seconds over the time allowed, 82 seconds the time allowed, and it is 0.4 of a penalty for every second or part second over that time allowed in the jumping. And it is calculated at 375 metres per minute. This 1 metre 25 track designed by James Tarrant. Next to come forwards, it is for Great Britain, Helen Bates. Helen comes forward with Cascorson Z. Helen, who just completed her first badminton with Carpe Diem a few weeks ago. Her top horse jumped a super double clear on her 5-star debut at Po last year. And Cass Coulson said very much her up-and-coming superstar. She was thrilled with the first phase, absolutely adores riding this horse, and all of the ingredients are there for a really, really super first phase score. Actually, 37.8 yesterday, but a couple of very costly errors in there. And you know that actually when it does all come together, there are some very nice marks to be had, which as a rider, well, frustrating that you didn't perhaps get them on that very day, is always very exciting that you know that there's more to come for the future. Helen did a good job there in just getting him back and balanced, but then giving him his head, letting him use his neck. Sees a flyer at the last and is home. Helen Bates and Carpe Diem. 37.8. They take their dressage score forward to the cross country. Helen, another of those riders to be remembering Georgie Campbell with the purple and white ribbon. An initiative that I know riders like Sammy Croyd and Team New Zealand have really led by example on this weekend. On Thursday, the British and the New Zealand flags both flew at half-mast, and the eventing family really pulling together in Ireland. And we hope if you're watching along with us that actually you're feeling the strength of the eventing community at this time. Now it is the turn of British rider Nicole Mills, and Fearless W comes forward on 36.6. It's a 14-year-old by Arco, owned by Nicole herself, so Nick Skelton's 2004 Olympic ride. Who's bred a few very good event horses, actually. Nicole, who's based at Casewick Stud in the East Midlands in England. Fearless W giving her a really nice feeling over James Tarrant's show jumping track, and she'll be very pleased with that. Would normally be a very good show jumper. This horse actually extends a clear round streak to 6 international runs in a row, including that clear round in Kililkey last summer, on their way to a 3rd place finish in the 4-star long format there. So Nicole Mills stays on that score of 36.6. Next to go is Quingenti, ridden by Lucas Stubbington, on a score of 35.7. Quingenti by September Storm, owned by Georgia Stubbington, 14 years of age now. Making light work of the early part of this jumping track. I think part of the combination did go. We'll get that confirmed on the live scores. Yep, middle part again proving costly. Will be 4 penalties for that fence down. Pretty certain the time is going to be absolutely fine, because the last goes as well. That's really frustrating. Just caught the back rail, and actually frustrating 8 penalties to add for Lucas Stubbington and Quingenti. sees them go to a score of 43.7. Time as we thought. Absolutely no worries there. This was the last. Just came down behind on the back rail. And a really frustrating additional 4 to add, I should say. Next to jump will be for Great Britain, Ellie Fredericks on a score of 34.2 with Pure Trendsetter. Ellie, who rode this horse actually for the British Young Rider team in Montelebretti last year. Stepping up to the 4-star level for the second time, completed at Bicton last weekend. And actually put in a really nice first phase. Could move up closer to certainly into the top 15, I would imagine, with a clear round. Ellie, whose mum Lucinda and dad Clayton have both won at the 5-star level. Very much forging her own path in the sport. Rattles that influential middle part of the combination. Just headed back away from the collecting ring in the in-gate. You can hear the "Come on, Ellie" in the background, but she is clear. Ellie Fredericks and Pure Trendsetter, no problems at all for them. They will go into 5th place of those that have jumped, or 6th place of those that have jumped, I should say. And actually will be no worse than 16th, most likely to move up easily into the top 15 with that clear round. So, Ellie Fredericks, Pure Trendsetter, clear for Great Britain. Now we turn our attentions to New Zealand, to Holly Swain and Ballycoskerry Regal Diamond. Holly, who's competed up to the 5-star level. Wonderful partnership with Solo. And Ballycoskerry Regal Diamond comes forward on 37.0. Last ran at this level over in Germany at Marbach. Jumped clear cross country there, completed Linear last year as well. And back in 2022, finished the season with a very good 5th place finish. Finished on their dressage score on that occasion in the super competitive 3-star long format at Osberton. It's 10-year-old, owned by the Hendricks Syndicate, bred by Eddie Meehan, Irish bred. Giving Holly a super spin over James Tarrant's show jumping track. And clears the last. So, Holly Swain, to the applause of the watching crowds. Really nice round from them. And they add nothing to that score of 37 to take forward to tomorrow's cross-country track. Mike Etherington Smith has set tomorrow's challenge. And certainly looks like it is going to play its part on the overall leaderboard. For now, though, our attention's on the jumping. And we're yet to see our overnight leaders, Chris Burton and Shadow Man, come forward. We'll see them in a short while. But they are still the ones to beat. Of those that have jumped, Stephen Hill, Kadam Deluxe, on a score of 30.7, hold the top spot. Now the first of 2 rides for Kevin McNabb. He comes forward with Pharaoh Imp. This just an 8-year-old stepping up to the level for the first time. Kevin, who was part of the Australian team that won a team silver at the Olympic Games in Tokyo. He comes forward with Scuderia 1918, a best friend, a little bit later on as well. This horse actually went really well at Le Lion d'Angers in the Young Horse World Championships at the end of last year. So exposed to big arenas, big atmospheres already. Went to Le Lyon actually as a 6-year-old as well. 4th at the 3-star shorts in Kililkey last summer. Really comfortably through that combination. Kevin actually sitting in 3rd at the moment with Scuderia 1918, a best friend. His treble combination has been influential, but pops through there very nicely. Be interested to see the time, because he's added the odd stride in places. 82 seconds the time allowed. He's jumping a really nice clear round and just touches the last, but it stays. So no jumping penalties to add for Pharaoh Imp and Kevin McNabb. And just as expected, was pretty close to the clock, 0.4 of a time penalty. So 0.4 to add for him, but actually left the fences up and the horse, as we say, relatively inexperienced, goes forward on a score of 35.0 to tomorrow's cross country. Now well into the final quarter of competitors coming forward in this Nations Cup class, the 4-star short presented by Connolly's Red Mills, and it is Andrew Downs, Ringfort Rêve du Moulin, who are next to jump. 15th after dressage, could move up a couple of places though, with a clear round here. 9-year-old by Glasgow Van Merrill's Nest, owned by Jane Moss. Jane Moss, who's been a big supporter of Andrew's and owns a good number of horses as well. Had the great former racehorse Gold Nugget that Andrew competed very successfully. Ringfort Rêve du Moulin not giving Andrew the easiest of times. Just throwing his head around. And Andrew just doing a very good job to sit quietly and patiently, trying to give the horse every opportunity to actually understand and read the question in front of him. Clever though, just ran in quite tight to the middle part of that combination, but wanted to leave it standing. And even though not giving Andrew the easiest of times, Ringfort Rêve du Moulin certainly bags of scope. So Andrew Downs will go forward on 34.2. Again, another to just sneak over the time. 0.4 of a time penalty to add. But Andrew, I think, will be pretty pleased with that. Horse not making life that straightforward, but showing plenty of talent. Next to come forwards, it will be Ryuzu Kitajima and Frozen New Mode on a score of 31.6 for Japan. 8th after dressage, already moving up a couple of places on the leaderboard. So everything to play for in the jumping combination, who were actually on the podium here 12 months ago in the 3-star long format. When it was the Olympic Group G qualifier here in Millstreet 12 months ago, deciding ticket spots for the Paris Games, and Japan do have a ticket spot. So bidding for team selection, and actually Ryuzu has a couple of really nice horses in contention. This horse who spearheaded his string over the last couple of years, joined by Be My Daisy, who was well placed at Adelaide in the 5-star with Shane Rose. And we're getting to a really crucial point of selection for so many teams. This combination will actually reserve the fourth man, in inverted commas, in Tokyo. I think, actually, from memory, they did actually jump on the final day as well. They were subbed in, one of the only substitutions made. Of course, the 3-in-a-team format we'll see again in Paris this summer. Rattles the last, but it stays. So, frozen new mode, and right, Yuzu Kitajima could well be ones to watch in the cross-country. 31.6, and they will stay on that dressage score.
That was a real consideration for Japan here. As we go next to the USA,
now
next competitor, Alexa Gartenberg.
We turn our attentions to Alexa Gartenberg for the United States of American. Cooley Kildare, the horse that she rides. Alexa, who's based with Australian rider Kevin McNabb, been based over on British soil for a year or so now, made the leap. Comes forward on a score of 38.7. Alexa actually had one pull down in Marbach. I think that just saw that fall at... No, still clear. I was just double checking the live scores, but still clear. One pull down in Marbach last time out. Back rail there does go. So 4 penalties to add at the moment takes them to 42.7. Just need to watch the clock as well. 82 seconds that time allowed. She jumps the last. And I think there's going to be a few time penalties too. Indeed, 2.4 time penalties. So that'll be 6.4 in total to add for Alexa Gartenberg. And that will see them just drop a few places on that overall leaderboard. We'll confirm exactly where. 46.1, I think they're total. Testing my own mental maths here. Now, one of the most highly rated horses in Ireland, second only to the 5-star winner, Colorado Blue, ridden by Austin O'Connor. This is Joseph Murphy and Calmaro. Horse that was actually produced by Laura Collett, but has been in Joseph's string for a few years now, and they've had some brilliant results, including 2 top 10 finishes at Aachen.
On the way here, it's Joseph Murphy.
Comes forward on a score of 32.5. So we're inside the top 10 after dressage. They were 10th, but could... I was going to say they could move up. They're not going to move up now, unfortunately. One pole down. Joseph very much bidding for a place on the team for Paris. This horse finished just outside the top 10 at the European Championships in Harada last year. So providing all goes well this spring, one would imagine they will be on that team. Unfortunately, a couple of rails down here, just proving a bit expensive. 3 down at the moment. 12 to add. And that's a real shame. They actually had 3 down in Kronenberg earlier on this season as well. Rattled the last, but it stayed. So Joseph Murphy and Calmaro, 12 to add. And that is going to see them drop well down the leaderboards. They were in 10th on 32.5. They're going to go to 44.5. And that's going to see them drop 40 places. They go 50th now on that score of 44.5. Next to go, it is Caroline Powell, Legally Grey, on a score of 32.4 in 9th place on the leaderboard. Caroline, the newly crowned badminton champion, won Mars Badminton Horse Trials a few weeks ago with Greenacres Special Cavalier. 14 years after her first 5-star win at Burghley in 2010 with Lenamore. Legally Grey wouldn't be overly experienced at the level. Looking for a first clear round cross-country at 4-star level. Only had a couple of runs at Kronenberg and Udkastel so far this year. Another to get the first part of that combination down.
And Caroline was in action with this one in the Netherlands, in People of Asia, mid-people in Udkastel.
Caroline is based in the east of England. Would dearly love to be representing New Zealand at another Olympic Games. Was part of the New Zealand team that won team bronze in London, actually, alongside Janelle Price, who was also in that team. Both of them could well feature in the Kiwi team for Paris. One pole down so far has dropped them out of the top 10. And clears the final fence. So Caroline Powell and Legally Grey. One pole down, which actually is an improvement on both of the horses' 2 previous runs at the 4-star level. So I think Caroline will be pretty pleased with that. 36.4 sees her drop down just outside the top 25. Next to come forward, it will be Cooley Now or Never, Georgina Hurling. Comes forward this 12-year-old by Ars Vivendi, bred by Thomas Lynch, owned by Georgina herself, on 38.7. Cooley Now or Never, stepping up to the level for the first time. Just outside the top 20 at Osberton in the 3-star short earlier on this month, and actually was 6th in Montelibretti in the Young Rider European Championships last year. Unfortunately, it was the show jumping that cost them that day. They were on track for an individual medal. I think it could have even been the gold. But Georgina, a real competitor, very talented young jockey, and has absolutely been doing her homework. Careful through the combination, 10 A, B and C. Just ran their luck slightly at the penultimate, and quite a wide turn back to the last, so be interesting to see their time. Get it very well to the cheers of the crowd, and a 4-star short debut, clear round in this phase. I think she'll be absolutely thrilled with that. But hearing just 0.4 of a time penalty to add. So 0.4 to add for Georgina Hurling, and that'll see her go to 39.1. So just 10 or so combinations left to jump here at Millstreet International Horse Trials. County Cork in Ireland, over on the west coast of Ireland. The Green Glens Arena, which has been home to the Duggan family for some 45 plus years. As we now welcome Ian Cassels with the fourth of his 4 rides. This is Kelly's Quality.
The 3-star here at Millstreet back in 2021.
Kelly's Quality, 32.9 dressage. We're 11th after the first phase, but actually could move up with a clear round into the top 7. Would go 3rd on the live leaderboard. Ian already jumped 2 clear rounds so far. Kelly's Quality hasn't always jumped a clear round, but Ian, an unbelievably talented jockey, and the horse not overly experienced at the 4-star level, just 4th run at the level, completed Burnham Market this spring. Actually completed this 4-star class not last year, the year before, 2022. Was very lightly campaigned at the back end of 2023. But Ian doing a really good job so far. And he clears the last as well. So Ian Cassels showing every bit of his skill with Kelly's Quality. And they will go on 33.7.
The 1-star intro jumping will begin at 5:30.
So 33.7, just picking up
So 1-star intro jumping now
0.8
starting at 5:30.
time penalties. And that will see him just drop a couple of places on that leaderboard. But he will stay inside the top 10. Andrew Barnett, Clark Johnstone, Janelle Price, all moving up. Still have the top 4 potentially to jump. And here is the overnight leader, Chris Burton and Shadowman. Chris, who has represented Australia at the very highest level in the sport of eventing. Actually hung up his eventing boots after the Tokyo Olympic Games. He was selected for Tokyo, not able to compete, and actually turned his attentions to the pure jumping discipline, where he's bidding for a place on the Australian team in Paris. But he could well be representing Australia in 2 different disciplines, because he came out of eventing retirement at the start of this year. And Shadowman, who was produced up to 5-star level by Ben Hobday, became his new partner on a bid to go to another Olympics. 25.7 their first phase score. It was a personal best as a combination. Only a few international runs together this year. They've got their Olympic qualification in the bag. They needed to tick that box first of all, and they've done that. Now it's a case of making sure that the Australian selectors can't leave them behind. A win here this weekend would certainly do them no harm at all. And my goodness, an absolutely beautiful round. Didn't touch a pole. Shadowman and Chris Burton are our overnight leaders going forward to tomorrow's cross country. Chris Burton, who is known as one of the fastest riders in the world, is going to be, I'm sure, putting his foot down on the accelerator tomorrow. Shadowman retains his overnight lead, very comfortable in the second phase here, and are the ones to beat. So next to come forwards, this is Lexi Kilfeather, Lord of the Morning, on a score of 39.9. They were in 51st place coming forward to the jumping. Lexi, 39.9, her starting score. This 13-year-old by Sandro Hitt, owned by Everina Kilfeather. Had to work for that final distance, but actually responded really well. And sometimes that is what you've got to do. Things don't always come up perfectly for you, and you've got to make them happen. Lexi did that brilliantly. Clear over the last. So Lexi Kilfeather, Lord of the Morning, will check her time. But 40.7, so 0.8 time penalties to add, just a couple of seconds over that time allowed of 82 seconds, which means she'll still move well up the leaderboard, probably improving 15 or 16 places on her dressage position. Next to come forwards, it is Molly Duda and Disco Traveller, 33.8, saw Molly in 16th place after dressage, but actually has the ability to be the best of the US combinations with a clear round in the show jumping going into the cross country tomorrow. And Disco Traveller ranked as one of the quickest horses in the field as well. So Molly, who's based out on the west coast of America, part of that US European tour. Leslie Law, the chef to keep for the US team, an emerging athlete coach for US Equestrian. Leslie, who won the individual gold medal at the Athens Olympic Games in 2004 for Great Britain, has been relocated over in the US for probably some 18 years or so. It wasn't long after Athens that he moved, and has now become a massive part of the high performance program in the US. He's massively passionate about helping young riders up the levels. And Molly, just unfortunately having that vertical after the triple bar. So will pick up 4 penalties. It'll move her on to 37.8, which unfortunately pretty expensive for her. Just the last to go. Molly Duda and Disco Traveller have completed their round. The US team have been extremely vocal in their enthusiasm over in Millstreet this week. There's a good contingent of them, and giving her a big cheer as she completes. Will just be 4 penalties to add inside the time allowed. So we'll see her go forward to the jumping tomorrow across country on 37.8. Unfortunately, it does cost her some 16 places, I should say, on the leaderboard. Next to come forward, it is Jennifer Coonley and Sammy Davis Jr. riding as individuals for Ireland. 30.4, best of the Irish combinations after dressage, and could well stay as best of the Irish combinations after jumping with a clear round. 30.4 their starting score. We're 5th after dressage. Combination aiming for Lamoulan for the 5-star in a few weeks' time. This horse actually gave Jennifer a 4th place finish at the Young Rider European Championships. Gave Cathal Daniels a 4th place finish at the Young Rider European Championships as well. I think actually in 2017 here in Millstreet. Back rail of the water tray has gone. So that is going to drop her out of the top 10. So Ian Cassell's and Kelly's Quality will be the Irish representative within the top 10 at the moment. Going forward to cross country. nicely through the combination. Just on the 1 pole down at the moment. That would see her drop just outside the top 10. 1 pole down isn't too expensive. Yes, it's costly, but actually one more would be a lot more costly. And so Jennifer Coonley, who does a lot of pure jumping as well, inside the time, 34.4, drops 10 places on the leaderboard. So, just 6 more combinations left to come forward. 1 for Germany, 2 for Ireland, 1 for Australia and 2 for New Zealand. Here is Felix Etzel and TSF Polatans. Combination that have won at this level for Germany. Actually went very well at Buccolo, back end of last year in the 4-star long format, clear inside the time cross country. Had a couple of rails down in the show jumping on that occasion, which unfortunately cost them a top placing, but finished in 16th place, 29.2. Can't improve on their second place at the moment, but would go behind Chris Burton on the leaderboard with a clear round. Chris Burton already going to have a bit of time in hand tomorrow. The question is, how much time is he going to have? He'll have a little bit more now. So 1 pole down for Felix Etzel. That actually drops him behind Steve Hill, behind Ryuzu Katajima, behind Janelle Price, behind Andrew Barnett. Stays in the top 10. Ooh, they had a slight difference of opinion on striding then actually, but the horse was clever and careful. So Felix Etzel just on the 1 pole down at the moment. Comes to the final fence. TSF Polatans. Ah, the last goes as well. That is really frustrating and will be a lot more costly, unfortunately. 8 to add for TSF Polatans and Felix Etzel. So they will go forward to tomorrow on a score of 37.2. And actually, you can see Michael Ryan, Clara Mountain just there, bringing to attention the fact that the back rail, I think actually the pole looks like it's broken on the back of the water tray. You can just see the left-hand side of it. Just looks like it needs a little bit of attention. So the arena party will be on that in the meantime. There we go, you can see that damaged pole being removed and a new pole coming in its place. The arena party will be on that very quickly. Michael Ryan, Clara Mountain on a score of 46.2. Michael Ryan won't be at all deterred, man of his experience, by a short delay. Massive shout out, it should be said, to the entire team of officials, of volunteers, the organisers led by the Duggan family. But it takes a massive army of people to run an event, let alone one of this magnitude. And they do a brilliant job. We're very grateful to everybody in Millstreet for all of their hard work. And after what has been a very difficult week for the eventing community, the eventing family in Millstreet have absolutely pulled together. We had no doubt that they would. But it hasn't been an easy experience for many. So Michael Ryan and Clara Mountain just waiting for that fence to be rebuilt, waiting for a replacement pole for the back rail of the water tray. You can just see it Parallel was to the left of your screens just a moment ago. Let's remind ourselves of how the leaderboard looks at the moment. Well, Chris Burton and Shadowman, our leaders after dressage, jumped a very good clear round to hold that position going into the cross-country tomorrow. Kevin McNabb and Scuderia 1918 are best friends, still to jump. We'll see them a little bit later on. But actually, because of penalties for Andrew Barnett, Go Tosca, who had one rail down to drop them from 2nd to 6th at the moment. And a couple of others, Felix Etzel, we've just seen, dropping down the leaderboard as well. It means that Kevin could go 2nd with a clear round very shortly. Stephen Heel, Kadam Deluxe, has moved up from 6th to at least 3rd with a clear round. And Ryuzu Kitajima for Rosa New Mode also capitalising on a clear round to move up from 8th to at least 4th. And actually, looking at Ryuzu Kitajima, as we see all of the different nations represented here in Millstreet this weekend, wonderful to see so many of them coming out to support one of Ireland's premier events. I was just looking to see whether we've had a Japanese flag at the top of the podium at top level, at 4-star level in Ireland. And we have. Kazuma Tomoto has done it twice. Bernadette Utopia at Ballindenisk in the 4 short, and Vinci de la Vigne in the 4 long at Campfire. So Ryuzu Kitajima could well be on top of the podium come tomorrow. New poll has been sourced, and a thumbs up to the team and to the ground jury in the commentary box to ring the bell. And so Michael Ryan and Clara Mountain will get their round underway in just a second. 46.2 in 57th place coming forward. Mike actually already had one round with Barnahown Cornhill. Had a super clear inside the time, so knows what it takes to jump a clear round inside the time here. Clara Mountain, an 11-year-old owned by Nicholas Pomeroy, by Puissance, out of a cruising mare. Puissance, who has sired a good number of very top event horses actually. Arklow Puissance of Wills Oakden. Sam Watson would be a big fan of a Puissance horse. Horseware Bushman and Arda Highlight, both Puissance bred. 2 of his major championship rides. Just didn't quite get high enough, wasn't quite careful enough in front. Unfortunately, the 8th does go. Yet really careful through the combination. Just seemed to serve as a little bit of a reminder for the horse. And actually has jumped a little bit better, more carefully since having that rail. Clear of the last, so Mike Ryan and Clara Mountain, just the 1 pole down for them. I'd imagine the time is fine as well. It is. So that sees them go on to a total score of 50.2. So 4 left to jump. Next of them will be certainly one that can really make an impact on the top of the leaderboard. It is Kevin McNabb, Scuderia 1918, a best friend. They were on a score of 30.0. That left them in, or they are on a score of 30.0. They were in 4th after dressage, could move up to 2nd, making an Australian 1-2 at the top of the table with a clear round. Can't afford a pole, could afford 1 second over the time. 0.4 of a time penalty, but nothing more. Kevin, who we've already seen on Faro Imp, actually jumped a very good clear round, just actually picked up 0.4 of a time penalty. But admittedly, Faro Imp much more inexperienced than a best friend, who's been well placed at the 5-star level, top 5 at Po a couple of years ago. Would be one of a couple of horses that Kevin has qualified for the Olympic Games in Paris. It's a big weekend for the Australian selectors here this weekend. And you can see Kevin actually attacking the course a lot more than he did with his first ride. His first ride, only an 8-year-old stepping up to the level for the first time, whereas he certainly doesn't look like he'd be picking up a time penalty with a best friend. Gets through the combination, so 2 to go. Chris Burton and Shadow Man are our leaders after dressage. Are we going to see an Australian 1-2? Kevin McNabb, just the last to go, makes it look very easy. So, comfortably inside the time, goes into second. Chris Burton will be our leader overnight, but Scuderia 1918, a best friend, Kevin McNabb, will be in second. Stay on that score of 30. Chris Burton will have 10 seconds in hand. That's 4 penalties on the cross country of Kevin in second. Stephen Hill, Kadam Deluxe sitting in third at the moment. Now we go to Patrick Whelan, Ikun Lan, 37.2, his score coming forwards. Patrick had 2 horses jump already. Ikun Lan an 11-year-old by a million, owned by Patrick himself. Who jumped clear cross country at Kronenberg in the 4-star short a little bit earlier on this year, had 1 pole down in the jumping on that occasion. Completed Blenheim in the 4-star long last season as well, and actually here 12 months ago completed in the 4-star short in this very class as well. Had a couple rails down on that run, but so far left all of the poles in the cups. This would be a very, very big clear round for this horse. Patrick Whelan doing a super job and going to be good on the clock as well. So Patrick Whelan and Ikun Lan stay on 37.2, move up 10 places from their placing after dressage and go into 30th. So just 2 to go, both for New Zealand. The first of those will be Tim Price and Drumgurrahy Gold. Tim actually had 2 down with his first ride, Chio 20. Comes forward with this horse on a score of 38.2. Pretty certain this is a horse that's running at the level for the first time. Drumgurrahy Gold is a 4-star debutant actually. Was 5th in our long format there. Very lightly campaigned internationally, this horse. Tim will of course use the national circuit in Britain to great effect.
The top 6 riders will be required for the 3-star short prize giving. This will take place in the main arena at the end of the Nations Cup jumping class. So the top 6 riders, unmounted prize giving in the main arena at the conclusion of the Nations Cup.
Widely regarded by many of his peers as an absolutely extraordinary horseman. A brilliant character as well. Great for the sport, but a lovely, lovely person. A great ambassador for eventing. Oh, just caught the back rail there. Didn't really deserve it. But unfortunately, Tim saw a bit of a longer distance and the horse just came down behind and actually took the middle part of that combination as well. So a couple of rails down so far. Just the last to go. Tim Price and Drumgurrahy Gold. 8 jumping penalties to add for Tim. So he was on 38.2. That'll move him to 46.2 and actually 0.4 of a time penalty as well. So 46.6 his total score. So just one combination left to jump. This was the first of those rails. He just caught it behind, was a little bit off it, and unfortunately just came down on that back rail. So Clark Johnstone and Damasco, the last to go.
Well, we've got the last to go in our 4-Star Nations Cup, sponsored by Connolly's Red Mills.
Damasco
For New Zealand now, to close off
is
the
actually
competition, Clark Johnson.
normally an exceptional show jumper. In his last 7 international runs, has only had 1 pole down. Had a great win at Burnham Market in the 3-star.
Good result here on
Was
the way
5th
to,
at Marbach in the 4-star, the horse's first run at the level.
at Marbach in Germany.
Had a couple of costly mistakes in the first phase yesterday, which just brought their score to a 36.5, which was a shame because actually lots of really nice work. I think from memory, it was the flying changes that proved tricky for them. But would sit just outside the top 25 with a clear round here. Just drifting right slightly down that combination. You can see bags and bags of scope this horse. Clark, who's been based back on British soil for the last couple of years at Aston Farm at Gatcombe Park. Great to have him over here in Europe. And big pats for Damasco, who never looked in any doubt. Goes forward to the cross country on 36.5, and that brings our Nations Cup show jumping to a close. This 4-star short presented by Connolly's Red Mills, huge supporters of not only Millstreet International but also of eventing as a whole and equestrian sports as a whole as well. And actually, that is the leaderboard. So let's run through it for you. Chris Burton, Shadowman, leading the way for Australia, 25.7. They have 10 seconds in hand of second place fellow Australian Kevin McNabb. Scuderia 1918, a best friend on a score of 30. Stephen Hill, best of the Brits in third, best of the Nations Cup riders as well, actually. Kadam Deluxe on 30.7. Ryuzu Kitajima, Feroza New Mode in fourth. Janelle Price McLaren in 5th, 32.9. Another clear round, moving her up 7 places from 12th after dressage. Andrew Barnett and Go Tosca, 1 pole down, unfortunately dropping them down to 6th for the Australian Nations Cup team. Clark Johnstone, Rocketman, moving up to 7th. Ian Cassell's best of the Irish with Kelly's Quality in 8th. Dan Jocelyn, Blackthorn Cruise, the third of the Kiwi team inside the top 10. In fact, they've got all 4 of their team members in the top 10. Blackthorn Cruise, Dan Jocelyn is also in 9th. Andrew Downs at Ringfort Rev de Moulin in 10th, rounding out the top 10 for Britain. So in terms of the team standings for the Nations Cup, New Zealand have taken over the top spot, 100.3 their total score. The United States of America moving up into second, 107.2. Ireland just over a second behind them, not even 2 seconds on the cross country, which is absolutely nothing when you take into account 3 riders. 107.8 in third. Australia have dropped to 4th, having led after dressage, 108.2. Great Britain, 109.2, sit in 5th. Well, the cross-country action will be live for you on FEI.tv with commentary from the on-site team led by Chris Ryan tomorrow from a provisional start time of 9 o'clock. Do check that official start time though, as that will be confirmed. But 9 o'clock tomorrow is when we're due to see the first of our combinations out on course. Who will come out on top, not only in the Nations Cup team competition, but in the individual standings as well? It is New Zealand leading the way in the team. Australia a 1-2 in the individual. Chris Burton, can the comeback kid take the top spot? We will be back FEI.tv tomorrow, but thank you for tuning in over the last few days. Enjoy the cross country. Watch this space here in Millstreet International 2024.